Now recently, YouTuber and fellow Scotsman Generation Pixel put out a fantastic video which was 10 video game changers for him. Weirdly enough, he put Final Fantasy VIII in there 10 times.
No! God! No! God, please, no! 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 No!
But jokes aside, this video was great and it got me thinking, I want to do the same. Now I did get permission from Generation Pixel to actually steal the idea and do it for myself. So what we will do here is we will look at the earliest games that changed the game for me. So for example, we'll be starting off with the Mega Drive and then working our way further to now. So without further ado, let's have a look at 10 video game changers for moi. Moi, yes me. So to the surprise of no one, the first game is Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Mega Drive. Now earlier on in the channel's lifespan, I did actually put out a video about why this game is important to me, but to sum it up, this was the first proper video game that I did play, and Sonic is one of my all-time favourite video game characters. I absolutely loved playing this game when I was a wee loon, and just, I mean, Green Hill Zone when you're a wee guy, you know, and just going, you know, just lost for words. It's just so good. Now with Sonic the Hedgehog and the Sega Mega Drive games influencing my tastes, you know, to platformers, so there was the likes of Echo the Dolphin, and there was Aladdin, James Pond, etc. Then Sony came with the PlayStation 1 and they brought the likes of Crash Bandicoot, etc. But in 1997, and you can see where this is going, one game came out which took me by storm and completely changed the game. So yet again, to the surprise of no one, it's Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII to me is the greatest game of all time. It has got my all-time favourite cast of characters, likes of Cloud, Strife, Barrett, Tifa, Yuffie, all of them fantastic, and the story is amazing. I had never played a JRPG before, or an RPG, like a game like this before, by this time. And one memory which always sticks with me is when you complete the Midgar section and you go into the world map for the first time. Now, that was just mind-blowing, and this set me on a path to play more Final Fantasy games, as I thought this was just fantastic. Now, being pretty young at the time when I played Final Fantasy VII, I played Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, and just, I kind of stepped away from JRPGs. I was more into my WWE games, Tony Hawk, etc. More your casual things. But there was another game which came out on the next generation console for PlayStation, and that was the PS2. And this game really changed the game for me. Now this game, I argue, is still one of the best in the franchise, and that is Grand Theft Auto 3. Now, full disclosure, I had Grand Theft Auto on the PlayStation 1 and played it before this, but when you get a fully open world to play around with, a sandbox where you can drive, steal cars, shoot gang members, etc., you'd never experienced a game like this before, and it was just amazing. This kept me on the path of these sort of games whilst I was on the PlayStation 2 era. Funnily enough, me being a big JRPG fan, I didn't like Final Fantasy X when it first came out because it was linear and I didn't like the fact there wasn't a world map, and Final Fantasy XII I avoided. So because of this actually put me on a different path of gaming, so that's why it's a big game changer. Now, after the PS2 generation came the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and I had been with PlayStation for the PS1 and PS2, but it was time for a change, and this is where I went down the Xbox 360 route. And there was one game I just spotted in HMV, and I thought, I looked at the box art and thought, you know what, I'm going to give this game a complete chance. Just never heard of it before, And makes to me it was the right choice of game, because this game just blew my mind, and it is a complete total game changer for the video game industry in general. And pardon the box because it is in a dire straits now, but it's the original Mass Effect. Mass Effect is a fantastic series, and I'm even going to include Andromeda here because I quite enjoyed it as well. Sorry.
My face is tired from dealing with everything.
The first time playing a BioWare game and having that choice system of when you're having conversations and being able to go Paragon or Renegade and being able to just make these decisions, game-changing decisions, it was completely new to me at the time. Started reinvigorating me wanting to play a bit more RPGs than I used to. Am I going to say to you it fully convert me back to JRPGs or push me to where I am now? No, because I was still playing Tony Hawk's games and WWE games. But there is a point where I can pinpoint where my video game tastes solidify to the current style of gaming I play, which is JRPGs. Now at the time I had kind of just wasn't really bothered about gaming, and it was actually when I was at work and bored on my lunches started playing mobile phone games, and I remember downloading Grand Theft Auto 3 and completing it on an iPhone of all things. And I remembered I had a PSP, and someone in my work at that time said, who knew that I played Final Fantasy VII, said, I've got Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII and I'm just going to give you it for free because I don't have a PSP anymore. And that was the defining moment. Crisis Core is the game which changed it all for me. So why is this a game changer for me? Well, at the time, this brought me back into JRPGs. It got me away from that whole mindset of I don't like these linear Final Fantasy games, and it made me appreciate RPGs fully. Even ones without world maps, etc. It got me past that, and once I completed it, I was like, right, I want to delve back into Final Fantasy. It actually was the main reason I got a PS Vita, so I could play Final Fantasy X on the go, and it got me to play, funnily enough, Final Fantasy 13 as well, which, by the way, I have no problems with Final Fantasy 13.
You serious?
So yeah, in general, if I hadn't played this game, I wouldn't have this channel just now, and I probably wouldn't have all the JRPGs that I do have. Now, as I mentioned with Crisis Core, it got me fully back into gaming and looking at JRPGs. Now, at that point I was still roughly just focused in on Final Fantasy, and I was starting to look back, well, find out if there was what Final Fantasies I'd missed, etc. And I had not known that Final Fantasy 15 was in the works. So this for me is an actual game changer. Now people can say that, I don't like Final Fantasy 15, it's rubbish. I absolutely love Final Fantasy 15. The excitement I had waiting for this game, and I remember watching all the animes which came out for it, watching Kingsglaive, anything to keep me going with that hype, because I was just so excited to get into a new mainline Final Fantasy. I hadn't had that excitement for a Final Fantasy game since Final Fantasy IX, and that's when I was a wee loon. So, you know, getting back into being really hyped up for a game, this is it. Fantastic. And I love the gameplay in it. I don't understand why people, I know folk basically say it's hold a button down and you'll win the fight, whatever, but I really enjoyed it, and it showed to me that JRPGs don't have to be turn-based the whole time. Folk are going to be angry with that. Now, because of Crisis Core, my sort of style of gaming is mainly handheld down to the PSP, and I went the next step up and got a PS Vita. Now, the next important game for me, well, game changer for me, was Persona 4 Golden, and this was me taking that step out my comfort zone from Final Fantasy games and trying new JRPGs, well, new to me. And what a choice to pick for the first JRPG to go out with that scale was Persona 4 Golden. It is a unbelievably fantastic turn-based JRPG, and it's one of the all-time favourites for me now. And I've said this before in a previous video, it is the first time that I have played a JRPG and thought to myself straight after it, and I did actually do it, started up a new save file and played another 100 plus hours into it. It was that good. And because of this, it did solidify me truly embracing JRPGs. Now, sticking with the PS Vita, as that was pretty much my primary console for a good while. I mean, yeah, I did play PlayStation 4 and all that, but PS Vita is where it was at for me. There was one game that I kept on seeing coming up in lists about, you know, turn-based games that you should play, and this one I really like the look of, and I never regret looking back on it. It's the Trails of Cold Steel series, especially the first game. This is just an outstanding JRPG, and it really, again, made me solidify why JRPGs were my favourite genre. Why I wanted to delve into more JRPGs, wanted to try different things except, you know, from Final Fantasy. And anytime I saw the Falcom logo, I knew straight away that the game would be fantastic. And at one point, I thought that the Trails of Cold Steel games were 1 point better than Final Fantasy. Yeah. And if you've never played a Trails of game, the combat, it's turn-based combat, and it's probably one of the best turn-based combat systems you will ever try. Now we are nearing the end of this video. We've got 2 more left, and the penultimate game in this list is one which I've played so many times, replayed so many times, and it was again another game which got me so hyped up when it got announced, probably like everyone else. And I love the way the direction of the series went with it, and that game is Final Fantasy VII Remake. I absolutely love and adore this game, and I had no issue that it was just in the Midgar section, because the Midgar section in Final Fantasy is my favourite part in the original Final Fantasy VII. For me, growing up playing Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation 1, it was kind of surreal seeing them in a more realistic manner and getting to explore the areas in full 3D, and taking more time to actually evolve the characters that you grew up with. And I tell you what, I keep going back to this game because it just is so good. But why is it a game changer? Well, it reinvigorated my love for the Final Fantasy series, especially Final Fantasy VII, and doubling it down as one of the greatest JRPG series of all time. The combat system was a complete game changer for me. I absolutely love the combat system. I have no problem with action-based combat, and this was, in my head, like having the childhood game fully realised in front of me. It's just utterly fantastic. Now, the last game in this video might have you going, eh? Really? But listen, this game is a complete game changer for me. It was the reason why I wanted to get a Nintendo Switch. It was the JRPG which made me go, no, I want to get a Nintendo Switch. I want to stick with my handhelds and try something new once again. And this is still probably one of my most favourite games on the Nintendo Switch. It's Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So why is this a game changer to me? Well, it pushed me back into handhelds with the Nintendo Switch. I was originally going to dodge the Nintendo Switch, but when I saw these trailers after my friend had shown me his Nintendo Switch, it pushed me to wanting to get one. And I was very lucky enough that my wife and son got me one. After playing this game, it made me once again search out for more JRPGs to play. I was over the moon when likes of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition got announced. The likes of, I'm looking at my list of games here, so there's the likes of Crosscode I would never play, Fire Emblem, the likes of Tales of Vesperia. There's so many JRPGs I have, it's unreal. But listen, all of these games are my personal choices. This is just video games which totally changed the game for me. Now what I want to know is, what are your video games which totally changed the game for you? Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you once again to Generation Pixel for letting me steal this idea from him. Cheers, my man. And please help me grow the channel by liking, sharing and subscribing. But until next time, tatty bye.